8 a.m. Central. We've got the 15-minute SPU blowbacks up on the screen. You can pretty quick view going back from Monday. What we've done yesterday, we pretty much just stayed in the same range as we did on Monday. Unfortunately, when we were on the call, I was able to catch the long and got stopped. I just hadn't quite done my homework early enough to be prepared for that opportunity. Dan was able to get back long and was able to take advantage of that. But that was, I think, smooth. You may have too. Anyway, we rode into this 47, 48 area that we'd visited on Monday, and it was an opportunity for short. So that it didn't really yield a lot of points because it came at the end of the day. But now we kind of skipped forward to what we did overnight, and we retested those highs, the 49.50 area, and we've now come off ever since. There was about 40 minutes ago, there was a little bit of retail news. I think it was at Target and some of the other retailers have sold off a little bit, presenting a little bit of weakness into the market this morning, not by much. SPUs are down 8, and that would put the so SPUs are down 8. If we trade below this area here, there's a good chance of us visiting these areas. 53.30, 53.23. Again, there's the potential for that. So if I skip right over to our SPX chart, literally with us being down, being down the 8, basically right at the top of this arrow, right where the arrow begins, literally right in here, this 14 area is where SPX would be opening up right now. And so that's a gap down by about 7-8 points. Because of that, I would. It seems to me that it's a rational idea that we would kind of trade down to this 57, 5307, 5308 area, with some of the other related retailers also getting a bit of a downward push. No telling what else it may drag. We do have minutes today, later on today. So I wouldn't expect like some massive move, but you know what, who the heck knows these days. Anyway, so my expectation is that we probably would trade down to this 0708 area, and let's test that. The spread was trending roughly 22.5 to 24 at different times yesterday, so we'll see where that opens up. But it'll be roughly similar levels as we had yesterday. So this will be the first test, this area here, the 07 area. And if we push below that, there's certainly an opportunity to go revisit down at the 53 even level, which is pretty much where we had opened. That's where we were pre-market on our call yesterday. So that's pretty much all I have. We've got Fed Day. So I would imagine that the first hour or two, they're probably it could present themselves. A few opportunities could be presented. If you've done your homework and you know the lay of the land, it's like there could be an opportunity there. Jim already mentioned the possibility of like getting on board some cost puts. So I think cost, let's see, where was that at? I think it was, so that's already down about $3 or $4. I've got the put options up for possibly the 790s expiring this week, or maybe something for next week. We'll see. That might be a little bit lower. I mean, there definitely is room for a lot more of a retrace for that. I'll let the other two guys get a little bit more involved in that one. That's pretty much all I have, and I will just hand it over to Dan.
Morning, everybody. So I'm going to leave cost to Smooth because that tends to be he's more familiar with that stock than I. I concur with everything David said on ES and SPX, and one thing that I will mention is this 36-37 area was an area that I shorted yesterday. stopped out and then shorted a bit higher. Getting below this and holding below this area. Let me pull this chart. Getting below this area here, which is now overnight volume point of control. Of course, my chart did that, which is a stupid indicator. Give me 1 second. So overnight volume point of control, 3650. We go back, look where the volume points of control have been since last Wednesday. I mean, essentially, we've been 33, 36 have been the volume points of control. If you're taking a trade here today, I don't know really what to tell you. We could reverse, go right back up to 43. We could go down and test down in this area. I don't know yet. Why am I going to take a trade yet? So that's my advice for this morning is let's wait and let's find a spot where we shake out and we can find some support. There is a possibility if we reverse here and reclaim 37, 38, we could go test 43-ish up here, which is that big flag area from Monday. So I'm not all that convinced that there's a trade to be had in ES yet. I will actively wait. I'm looking at sort of 28 on ES could be an interesting spot. Below that, we could see 22. 22, I think, probably would be close to 5,300 SPX. So that's what I'll be watching on the indexes. The other index I wanted to bring up here, we discussed this one a little bit yesterday. We're getting a bit of a breakdown. We get below sort of this 2097 on RTY, which happens to be essentially where we're trading right now. I mean, there's a wick down to 94 from CPI low. 97, 94. Those, if you see 94 go on the small caps, I think we probably start to go back and auction this box that we talked about yesterday. I would actually even bring it down to like here to 2080, just because of this volume point of control. You've only got these couple of spots here where it just popped up through this box and then reverted right back to it. So and then it broke out and now sort of made this new box up in this area. So this little spot here from 2094 down to 2080 is pretty low volume area. That could be a pretty swift move through that. So I'm going to be watching that because that might be a decent little short for, I don't know, 14 points on RTY, which is not a little bit. So I'm going to watch that today. That's an interesting setup to me. UB, and we've talked about this, 123.22 we're sitting at again. This right here was CPI. So we're below that. So do we start and go retesting these areas in the 122s, which could put pressure on that RTY and even the rest of the indexes if they start listening to bonds again? I'm not convinced they will, but certainly small caps have been listening to bonds. So that's an interesting thing to watch here. Trade I added yesterday, I added equity and some small options on it, is this ENVX. This is a battery, micro battery company, essentially batteries for phones and Apple Watches type stuff. And you've got a really interesting setup here where you've got this sort of gap up and then you're building this flag out here or pennant, whatever you call it. And if we can break out of here, and if I have visible range volume profile on, so it's going to show the red line as my volume point of control. If I keep zooming out, that volume point of control is massive and is at the same spot, sort of essentially as far as I can zoom out. So if this thing can get rolling through this 1050 area, 1060 area, I think this could make a pretty good move back to the 12s, maybe even the 15s. So really interesting setup, and a company that does tend to get a lot of short interest, and tends to be a one that can really rip through if you see sort of it has a tendency to gap up and go, gap and go. It also has a tendency to gap down and go down. So it can be a pretty volatile name, but I like the spot here. Certainly for an equity play, options. Play at your own risk here on options. I'm not exactly sure how long it will take to break this out, but I like the equity idea here. I'll give it over to you.
Thank you. Screen. All right, I'll just quickly touch on indexes. We have this 3250 I've talked about, 20 times in the last few days. It's key Fibonacci here to hold on the lower end. I shared this yesterday. We're in this ascending triangle setup, flat top, whatever you want to call it. We're kind of in this bottom range here against this trend line, so I would keep an eye on this. If this breaks, and we'll probably come retest it, and then see if this pattern fails, or if we're gonna kind of rally back up here and test the highs. We can probably move this up a little bit. So I'd be watching that zoomed in. You can kind of see the same formation here. We really got to break out above this 53.50, basically above that, and we can kind of watch for a breakout, but be careful, because these things like to kind of mess around on the low end and on the high end. So look for any false breakdowns, false breakouts. Just be careful not to chase. But pretty much the same levels as David and Dan gave you. We kind of got to hold this range here. Otherwise, we're going to be trading back down towards 2207 area. So that's pretty much it on the indexes. Tesla, had a great day yesterday where we retraced a little overnight as expected. We're coming down into this 38 Fibonacci retracement. There is a weekly support, or what was a resistance pivot here, but now we want it to act as support. If it does sell off more, we really want to try and hold this 178.50, 180 area in order to start looking for another leg up, for it to keep moving in the swing that we've been playing this in. So I'll be watching that. There was some news that came out this morning, nothing major, but SunPower, one of the solar companies, announced that they're adding the Powerwall 3 to its lineup. So I don't think that's really anything that's going to move the stock, but just keep an eye on Tesla. I mentioned in the chat coin. I was looking at Bitcoin, which is kind of holding in this range right now. But I do like this setup short. We'll see how this acts open, if it can hold this trend line. I can see this coming down kind of into this zone, into here, and then into this trend line. So I would keep an eye on that. Excuse me. Costco, we were talking about. It's kind of got this formation here. I'm not interested in shorting it until maybe we get a test up at the top here. I would be interested, which is right around 800, which would be a convenient number to be able to short at. And then if we get a break and retest of this area here, I would be interested in a short. So watch retail. Obviously,
Something to note on that one. I was just looking at the options chain while you were talking about it. Is earnings on that is next week. So anything past, so it's on the 30th. So next week's options are pretty juiced.
Yeah, you probably got to play this week's.
Or you could play next week's, and it's going to hold premium for you. But
well, yeah. Also, be careful in any options too. Just remember, Monday is a holiday, so you've got that extra day of theta. And also just be wary of that. Probably after today and tomorrow, we're probably going to see volume just die. It's already been pretty low this week, but
You'll see my volume die on Friday.
yeah, a lot of the big guys are going to be getting the helicopters ready to go out to the Hamptons. So Friday is going to be pretty dead on the volume, and then probably Tuesday will be a little slow getting going next week. So Costco, yeah. So just watch that. I'm not interested in playing it anywhere in this range. I'll look for a short here if it get a failure, or if we get a breakdown retest, then that could be an interesting short. But just keep an eye.
What's that breakdown level? The numbers are a little crunched on my screen.
So this trend line would be at around 795, and then you have a Fibonacci below at 794.27. So I would look at like a break of 794 to be key.
Thanks.
I would rather see it come back up here to like 800. 800 would be a really good area to watch. I mentioned coin. I've been watching Baba. I mentioned that. That's continuing to sell off, which is good. I really would like it to come back down into these moving averages, around 83, 80, 79 area. I think that's about it, really.
Citron's out there pumping Baba today, saying it's the best. And granted, Andrew left from Citron is, for all the shit people talk about the guy, he's when he picks long names, he rarely misses. He's known for his short selling, but when he does take long names, he rarely misses. And he talked about Baba today as being one of the best investment opportunities he's seen in his career.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good company. Obviously hurt by just the general consensus on China.
Yeah, for sure.
But if we zoom out onto the weekly, I mean, it's been slaughtered. It was up, around $300 and over, and now we're down in the 80s. So,
what's interesting to me about Baba is I think the market as a whole is sort of pricing in a Trump victory, and the fact that China is running into a market believed Trump victory is very interesting to me and something to certainly keep an eye on.
Yeah, for sure.
I did add K-Web yesterday in my Roth just because I want to overall exposure to the China thing. They're going into a different economic cycle than we are. We're going to be sort of cutting rate. They've already cut rates. They are in they need to stimulate their economy and put money in. So I like it.
Yeah, they got billions of people.
I think I'll add today too.
Sorry, say again.
I think I'll be looking at Baba and the K-Web as well today.
Yeah, I really like this. I mean, this is definitely not going to be a trade. This is going to be an investment. I'm just trying to nitpick a decent entry. So
yeah,
Julian, I would have.
We know you mentioned Baba.
Yeah.
And I think Pinduoduo, I don't know how you say it, but
Pinduoduo.
Yeah, that one. Pull that one up. They had earnings today. Looks like they killed it.
Temu is
yeah, the new wish.com, but
right.
they're making money with it. What's crazy about that is Temu does not sell any goods to China, only to the US. So it tells you what they think about us, but
there's probably secret cameras embedded in everything.
yeah.
I've ordered some stuff from Temu and it's just hot garbage. It's crazy, but it's good for like crappy Christmas gifts for people you don't like.
Fair.
I think that's about it. Just kind of obviously semis are going to be in the spotlight with NVIDIA tonight. I ain't touching anything on earnings for NVIDIA. I think anybody that does is just crazy. There's premiums and nuts, and it's so extended. I wouldn't be surprised if it came up and tagged 1,000 today, either right after the bell or during market hours. We'll see. But
I saw something today or yesterday. I think I posted it in the room about NVIDIA is actually pricing in the lowest, like almost 50% less of a move this earnings than it's had in the last like 10 earnings. Which is crazy to me that it's pricing in almost I believe it's like a 9 or a 10% move, but their average move after earnings has been like, I don't know, 15% or something like that, 12%. So there was a lot of talk about, I'll repost the post, but about a straddle being an interesting proposition because their average move is usually so much higher than what is being priced in this go round.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one to watch, but I'll be watching from the sidelines, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's not something I'm going to be messing with either.
The only other thing, we have FOMC minutes at 2. That may, move things around a little bit. But I don't think anything unexpected is going to come out of that. And I think we have new home sales this morning at 10 a.m. or existing home sales. And that's about it, really. Just, it's going to be tight on the indexes and unless we get above or below the levels mentioned. And it may be another day where we're kind of more focused on individual stocks, but let's see what happens. So we'll see you guys in the room.
All right, sounds good. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks.
See ya.